We are right at 8 o'clock, and I do not want to run askew of Dr. Good's rule of starting on time and ending on time. We do have two other panelists that will be joining us momentarily, but in the interest of time and to respect your time and everybody for hopping on, we'll get started. I just want to say thank you and welcome to all of you this evening. We have a number of students joining us. We have some of our student officers joining us. And then we also have an elite panel of individuals who are going to talk about their roles in mentoring. So we're going to hear from mentors and mentees and what it's meant for their progress as they work through their medical education and what it means to them to be part of the process. So what I would like to do, Dr. Rosh, if it's okay, I'll start with you. Dr. Rosh is an associate professor in internal medicine, campus dean for Rocky Vista, Utah campus. She's also an ACLI board member, a fantastic human being as a whole, and really somebody who has dedicated a large part of her life to mentorship and has been a mentor to many, many, many people and would be a perfect person to start the dialogue. So Dr. Rosh, if I could kick off to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming. So how many of you know what a mentor is? Do you know what a mentor is? I'll tell you, when I looked at the definition, it says a mentor is someone who provides guidance, support, and advice to another person, often in a professional or academic context. Mentoring involves sharing knowledge, experience, insights to help the mentee grow and develop in their career or in their personal life. So even as early as your first day of medical school, you're going to be a mentor as you mentor new students that are coming in from, as early as high school. I get questions from high school students. How could I be a doctor? What could I do? And all throughout your whole circle of life, throughout your whole career, throughout medical school, throughout your clinical training, throughout your internship and your residency. See, I'm just really old. That's the only thing I have on top of you guys. I'm old. I had a lot of experience. And if I was going to share anything with you, throughout my whole career, just be nice to everyone. Okay. That's a really good starting point. You might not know everything. You might not feel like you get a little imposter syndrome, a little dialogue inside your head. Oh, I don't know if I could do this, but you can. Many of the people in this room, Dr. Good, for example, has served as a mentor and advisor to me. And even though I've been the dean of a medical school and I've been an attending physician, I've learned so much from my medical students and from my residents and from Dr. John Arthur, who's here. He's one of the residents. He's an internal medicine resident now, but was a student when I was the campus dean down for Kansas City and Joplin, Missouri. So it all starts out from that whole process. I think I never viewed myself as a mentor. I never woke up in the morning and said, oh my goodness, I'm going to be a mentor to these people. My philosophy has always been, we're physicians, we're trained, we're all in this circle together. We're here to help each other. And that's a big piece of what we do. And I think when you're nice to people, you do a good job, you work hard, people recognize that and you get rewarded. People call you and say, hey, Laura, you want to be a dean? Okay. Hey, Laura, you want to be on the ACOI board? Sounds fun. I'm in. Those kinds of opportunities present themselves when you're constantly working hard, improving yourself, and helping a bunch of other people along the way. So was that too long?
No. That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And then what we'll do, we're going to work through the panel and then open it up to just have some free flowing dialogue. And so if it's okay, what I'd like to do next is we'll kick it over to Dr. Arthur. Dr. Arthur is a third year internal medicine resident at Wright State University. He's also the ACOI resident representative on the board of directors. I'm just going to build off of one thing Dr. Ross just said in terms of you don't think about people who are mentors or maybe not always thinking about what you do. And actually, Dr. Arthur and I had a conversation. He doesn't even know this. But based on the conversation, he was actually mentoring me, providing guidance and direction and ideas. And so you don't necessarily always know when you're doing it. So I'll just highlight the importance of how you interact with others and that type of thing. So Dr. Arthur, I'll kick it off to you next.
Yeah, I don't worry. I muted everything. I didn't hear a single thing. You're good. Uh, yeah, it's great to meet you, everyone. Kind of even echoing what you said, Tim, mentorship is a beautiful thing in the sense that you don't necessarily need to know that it's happening. That just shows how important and vital it is, and just how close you'll have with your, future mentors and also mentees. So it played a huge aspect in my life. So as a result of mentorship, I have the privilege of being able to talk with you all today. All thanks to, of course, Dr. Laura Roche, not only a phenomenal colleague, but also my med school mom, always Kansas City University, no matter where you go. And also, even now, feeling like I actually improved as a leader just with my ACUI family. So, mentorship is extremely important as an educator, as someone receiving education for multiple reasons. Not just, the extra fund of knowledge that you have always in your back pocket. There have been multiple times that during the night, as a result of my mentors, I'm able to call them, feel at ease, able to learn quicker as a result of it. I don't have to frantically look at any kind of guidelines. They are always there for me. Um, another big thing is being able to achieve huge goals. Okay. When you're a resident, get thrown upon kind of like this whirlwind of, it's essentially chaos, especially day one, where your true only goal you'll have in your mind is, I'm going to be the best doctor I can be. But as a result of having a mentor, they actually, teach you measurable, achievable goals, kind of like bite-sized things that ultimately lead you to actually being the best doctor you can be instead of, more of a lofty dream. And lastly, big emphasis on just the connections. Again, I had the privilege of having Laura Roche as my dean. I had the privilege of having her as also just a very close friend. And as a result, again, I have the biggest honor of being able to actually speak with you all and have these fun teaching moments with Tim, apparently, which is also a big thing for me too, which is a huge plus. But no, I look forward to being able to also learn from you all as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arthur. Appreciate those comments. The next one, we're going to go to student Dr. Greco, who I've actually had the pleasure of just recently getting to know in the last couple of months as a newer member of our Student Osteopathic Internal Medicine Association. He's a second year from West Virginia, the School of Osteopathic Medicine. And as I noted, a member of our SWIMA group. And Dr. Greco, I will also say I've had the opportunity to learn from you in the short period of time that we've been able to work together. So love to hear about your thoughts on mentorship and how it's helped you as you work through your education.
Those are really kind words. Appreciate you. Um, what is it? Sesame Street, I think the song is, where it's one of these things is not like the other. I can't believe I'm on this panel with two superstars here, but I'll keep this short and sweet. Mentorship is astronomically important to me. From my times in the military, guiding the young troops that came in, all of a sudden they just have this paycheck coming in, these newfound responsibilities. They're just rusted in a new world. And to me, mentorship is just guiding someone along, showing them the ropes, just guiding them to success, showing them what works for you, and helping them avoid pitfalls. And that involves things like keeping your a calm, collected mind in any situation you're in, or avoid, let's say, buying that new Camaro with 34 APR interest rate and things like that. Mentorship, I think, is one way how you can sculpt the future, make whatever organization, whatever field of medicine you're in, make it better. Because, and about medicine, I can't speak, but for my military experiences, you've seen some changes, you see things that are good, you see things that are bad. And what you want to do is you want to ensure that we keep growing the good aspects of it. And to me, that's what mentorship is just all about. Like the doctor said earlier, some of you here, which by the way, I would just like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, coming so late just to hear and learn from us. And we also will learn from you when you get your chance to speak. But some of you are actually mentors. Just think about any, wide-eyed, bushy-tail year one student. They still should be excited. Came up to you and asked you for advice on how to handle a test or how to study, and that type of person just thrust in a new field and a new environment, and you were able to kind of like calm them down, calm their nerves, and then guide them through. You are actually being a mentor right there in that moment. I actually, mentorship is the platform I ran on. It is something that I would love to build off of for the ACOI in general, revamping the mentorship program. We have a lot of big changes coming up, especially with the way to sign up to get a mentor. And as your questions come in, I'll explain more about that along the way. But thank you for having me, everybody.
Thank you so much. I'm going to extend the panel just a little bit, and I'm going to add somebody who is really kind of the epitome of mentorship. Somebody who I've had the pleasure of working with for almost 20 years now. And I've seen mentor students, residents, staff, other physicians. Dr. Good, I would like to get your thoughts on mentorship.
Good evening again. So, I mean, my goal is to make everyone but you on this call the person who may take care of me at my worst moments. And if we're able to do that, you as physicians and people, I think that's our goal as educators and as mentors. So, I mean, I think that the comments already been made are excellent and right on spot. So I have very little else to say, Tim. I know it's hard to believe, but you've got a good panel here.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it, and appreciate you joining us as well. So one of the things I'll kick off, and I would ask anybody that has any questions, please, put your hand up, put them in the box. Like I said, we'll like to just have a conversation here, but as you think through that process, I'd like to throw something out to the panelists here. When I think about mentorship, I can actually think back in my career and count on one hand the number of people who I view as having fundamentally shaped what I do and how I go about it. And I can actually narrow down not only those individuals, but I can narrow down specific points or advice that they gave me. Can you think of an example of a mentor that you had who fundamentally impacted, whether it be your decision to go into medicine, how you go about your studies, how you go about your practice, but ultimately shape how you go about your days?
I can start off with this one. So I am currently, of course, resident at Wright State University, but also a captain in the Air Force at Wright-Patterson Medical Center. I remember back when I was an auditioning student, and I will say his name, and I'll keep on saying it proudly. His name was Nate Ford. He was at that time a senior colleague of mine, but when I first started, he was the pinnacle of what I would call a leader. He was the person he was only a second year at that time, but nurses would ask questions of like, hey, we don't have access. He would look down for a couple moments very patiently and then he says, well, I'll just get an ultrasound and do it. He was a go-getter. He was someone that would show up at 5:30 in the morning every single day prior to interns, helping them prep. And he showed me that was kind of what you had to do basically to make yourself a leader. He was a mentor for me as a result of that. He was someone that I felt like he was the epitome of someone that always did right. And even if he did wrong, he always did his best either to rectify it, but always in the end, he just had good intentions towards it. So even to this day, I try to prove those examples to, I guess now my mentees. When I have those interns or also hopefully that sub-I that somebody will look after who might find actually the same kind of qualities that I thought of Nate Ford.
not all mentors have to be physicians. So I want to just put that right out there. And I think as John was talking, I think about my high school basketball coach. And, it struck me because the other day I was looking through my high school journals. Really, it's true. And I found that as a sophomore, I was put on the bench my first varsity game. And was I prepared and ready to do that? And I think that's what mentors do. They get you prepared. They get you ready for the next step because you have other steps in your life that you'll be going through. And sure enough, I'm sitting at the end of the bench, never expecting to play in this game. And good, get in the game. Was I ready to get in the game? Because he had to yell at me twice, right? And once I got in the game, the first thing I did was travel, right? I was expecting to get my butt back on the bench again, but he allowed me to make that mistake to go forward and play or play at least part of the game. And I'm just saying that's what we do as mentors. We have to allow you to get out there. There'll be some failures. It won't all be good, but we allow you to have those times to learn from them. Because we don't learn the stove is hot until we touch it. And that's true in medicine. So AI doesn't always get us out of all of our, Emily C., AI doesn't get us all of the troubles that we get ourselves into. We have to think ourselves through them, and good mentors allow you to do that. So that's the kind of people that I think about that were influential in my life.
Thank you so much.
Personally, I didn't ever like the Bobby Knight approach that they used in the 1980s when I went through training. Not for those of you who don't know who Bobby Knight is, Google him. He was a basketball coach in Indiana. He used to throw chairs and scream and yell at his players and berate them and belittle them. And some people respond very well to that. I had so much of it in my childhood that by the time I got into postdoctoral training, I was really over being screamed at and yelled at. And I needed some TLC and nurturing. And as a result of my strong desire to want to have that in my own life, I kind of modeled myself after that with the adage, I treat students, I treat residents, I treat my colleagues as I want to be treated all the time. A mentor, it's really important to find someone who aligns a lot with, you'll learn a lot from the ones who are not like you as well, but mentors come in all shapes and sizes, and you'll maybe hip lock with some of them on some items, and even some of the bad ones you'll run into in medical school and in your training and in your internship, you will learn from them as well. But what I hope every single student will take away, and please, please, please take this away. Hear this if you hear nothing else. You are valuable. You are special. You are important. You are smart. You are worthy. You would not have been picked to get into medical school and to be at this stage in your life if you didn't. And there's going to be moments when you forget that. And oftentimes, again, I would reflect back and try to reach out grasp at some of those things, because there'll be days when you're on call or when you're tired or you're working in the ICU and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. A strong mentor will help guide you, and even the memory of some of the things and the love or the encouragement or the positivity will help carry you through some of those challenging issues. And look around at your colleagues and your peers. I have been so blessed by working with other physicians. There's nothing greater. There is nothing greater than working in a room who want to serve in a community and help other people and who are smart at it. And when you're kind on top of it, it's sheer bonus. And I've had hundreds of wonderful, wonderful mentor opportunity moments throughout my whole training and my career, and reflecting back, people who believed in me and just gave me that little oomph. But I want you to remember that anytime you make a mistake or you stumble, exactly what I just told you, or I will find you and I will shake you and I will make sure that you know how special and valuable and important. You are not perfect. You are not a God. You are not in charge of the world. You are not in charge of what your patients do or outcome, but what you are responsible for is to bring your best clinical, astute mind, calmness, competency, deliberate, heart-held work toward your effort of taking care of that patient. Because when you look in their eyes, that is your daughter, mother, brother, sister, husband, family member. It is your job to do the best you can, but do not diss yourself if the outcome goes the other way. And I've seen that in plenty of the residents that I've trained as well. Mistakes are opportunities to learn. They are not who you are. They do not define you. They do not represent anything about you. That it's an opportunity to learn. I want you to phrase it that way. I feel so strongly about that.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. Dr. Greco? Our student, Dr. Greco?
I got promoted.
You're getting there.
It was really inspirational stuff. And just to piggyback off of that as well, I think one of the most important traits when it's our turn to mentor the future, whether that be an incoming resident or even further incoming students, is one mentor I remember specifically was military. Again, this is a sizable part of my life. It was 9 years, so we're gonna have some stories. But when I first came in, it was Sergeant Gonzalez. Believe it or not, high schooler, 18 years old, joined the military. I was kind of a knucklehead, who would have believed that, especially those of my classmates that are here. But what I remember most about him was, yes, he was hard on me, but of course, that's just the environment we were in. But he always took the time to explain any mistakes I made and gave me the time and the resources to grow. He was very patient, and I think that's very important when we go off into the future, and then we mentor and we help out our future colleagues and future students and things like that. And as I'm sure some of you felt after her speech, I think another important aspect of being a mentor is to be inspirational. There's a difference between being let's say a manager over someone or just be a higher ranking over someone, and being a mentor who's someone that makes you want to do better because of what they've taught you. I think inspiration and leading by example are key traits when the time comes for us to finally be mentors.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let me see if we don't have any questions in the comment box. Oh, I see one just popped up actually from Emily. As a rising resident, what are ways I can mentor younger students?
Well, you start by being yourself, right? We are who we are, and the obvious answer here is that you can't be who you're not, right? And by doing that, by using that thought process, you already being mentors. It multiplies. So mentorship multiplies. It isn't just affect the person in front of you, you're affecting multiple people down the road. So as Emily grows up in medicine, and then she becomes a mentor, and the people who have been mentored by her go on and do others. It's a multiplying effect. And our goal is not to be a map for somebody's life. It's to be the compass to get them in the right direction. So I think that's our overall goal here.
I see a question. Looks like student Dr. Mirza. Would you like to ask your question?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yep, we can hear
You're
you.
good.
Perfect. I actually have a specific question for Dr. Arthur, if that's okay.
Shoot.
I like specific examples, and it's somewhat of a more personal question if you're comfortable answering it. I was wondering if you have a specific notable advice or connection your mentor has given you that you think has set you up for success or has given you an opportunity you feel like you wouldn't have gotten without your mentors.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, first I gotta even go back to talking about, Dr. Laura Rosh, right? She was, yeah. Don't shake your head. She was someone who was just the warmth that she always provided was something that always made me want to seek advice from her. Okay. And that actually kind of stems with Emily's question is how can I lead? Is just as what Laura previously mentioned, be kind, live by example. And then the thing about being a mentor is that mentees are the ones that seek advice from the mentors. So you being welcoming as is, they come to you. In terms of for Dr. Laura Raj, she was the one who, kind of pushed me, being like, hey, you should try to go for the ACOI. And then I applied, and now I have the privilege of being able to work with her, to be able to work with Dr. Good, and now with student Dr. Greco, which is, very nice to meet you. In terms of my residency, I always had an interest in pulmonary critical care, but other fields where they helped direct me to attendings who would even, I'm not working, but they would say, hey, follow me around the ICU if you want. Like, let's go, let's have some fun. And it was just that warmth that they themselves provided, which always made me go to them. I don't know if that fully answered your question, but it's those kind of things where they just were so, essentially, I was just so attracted to them just by how they were as humans. And then they helped direct me towards some of those amazing people that it just kept on going. It was kept on giving.
Thank you. Yeah, it did answer my question.
We have a question here in the chat box. What's the best approach towards approaching someone for mentorship?
So I'm going to just do a little chime in real quick. What I will say is, even kind of what Laura was saying earlier, is that in medicine, we're a family and we want to give. My piece of advice I always give to medical students, for instance, let's say for research, is just ask, because you'd be amazed how, any attending, any resident, they would look back and they're in the similar shoes and they also want to give. Asking for mentorship, you are asking to be, mentorship is a very close relationship, right? So if you are asking someone to be their mentor, that means you have had a connection with them or you find that you are comfortable to speak with them. Don't ever force yourself to find a random person that you don't necessarily connect, okay? Because there are plenty of phenomenal people out there who will still be able to guide you. So it really should actually be that difficult to do. For me, for instance, with Nate Ford, I said, hey, can you be my mentor? He just gave me a double thumbs up. He's like, I'd love to. And that was that. And then I was just set.
I love that, John. When I was the third year, I can remember how I got my mentors, how really my clinical mentors, is they were always hungry. The residents and the fellows were always hungry. So I would go home and I would bake cinnamon buns every night, put them in the oven, heat them up in the morning, put that frosting on there and bring it in to the ICU. And you would be amazed if you give a resident, an internal medicine resident, a cinnamon roll that's hot with a cup of coffee and you do some OMT on their neck and shoulders. So get good at your OMT in the upper thoracics and cervix. I used to do that. I think that's why I won the internal medicine award, seriously. But
I'll give you all the research. I'll do anything for you. Don't worry.
they saw that I was interested. They saw that I was willing to learn and that I went a little bit extra mile in a different direction, right? Not necessarily, but I would stay late and I would come early. I would pick up the room when they dropped the papers. I would help the nurse carry the patient. I would open the door when the ER people came through and needed to transfer a patient. I would be the one at the head of the bed bagging when nobody wanted to bag, right? Transporting a patient, in the olden days when we had to bag and do everything by hand. So at every opportunity, at every turn and every bend, that gets noticed. And that doesn't just get noticed by people you want to mentor. It gets noticed by the guy who's standing at the door, who maybe is the cardiologist in charge of interventional cardiology, and he sees you or she sees you doing things like that. I can't tell you how many doors have been kicked open for me just by somebody tangentially seeing deliberate behavior that I wanted to do anyway, but it was deliberate and grounded in the fact that I'm here for service and that I'm in a good position, and people were willing to teach me. That's how doctors are. They want to help, especially students. Goodness, They love you guys. They love you to death.
Thank you so much.
You may
think
have
we
multiple mentors, so don't think you're stuck on one, right? The guy or person who teaches you critical care ventilatory skills is going to be different than the person who maybe is the GI mentor versus the whatever. So you'll latch on and you'll have multiple mentors as you go through the process. I think Laura hit on a really important key here, is that work ethic is a very important thing that catches my eye. It doesn't necessarily mean how smart you are. It's really about how hard you're and how interested you are in the patient care and willing to work. And that really allows me to get more interested in helping.
a hand raised by Meghana.
Hey guys, thank you all for doing this with us tonight. Just going off the discussion we just had in regards to finding clinical mentors during your third year, how do you recommend going about maintaining that relationship throughout your rotations? Like, let's say you could do your surgery rotation or internal med in this case, and you like really like internal med. You find a good mentor, but you just get really, really busy with other rotations and other responsibilities. What is an appropriate way to maintain that relationship throughout your third and fourth year?
I'm a big guy who thinks that research is important, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're finding the cure for cancer, but you maybe do quality improvement type activities on a rotation. And that's a good way to keep in contact with the person that you're referring to. So if there is a surgeon out there that you want to kind of keep in contact with, and you've done something in that rotation toward quality improvement, it's a good way to kind of keep tagged in a way to get feedback from the research that you're doing or the information you're achieving.
Kind of also just building off from that. So the thing is, again, to be a mentor, they're also invested in you. Okay. So when you are asking them, like typically what I had done when I was like a third and fourth year was at the very end of the rotation, of course, I didn't make cinnamon buns. Okay. Like I wasn't probably as good as Dr. Rosh there. But I definitely would express not only my gratitude, but saying, hey, I'm willing to put in the work for doing research. I would express my interest, but also my work ethic towards them. And didn't just ask. Like they understand you're in different rotations. They understand, like, okay, well, they're now moving on to internal medicine or pediatrics. If you shoot them an email, that actually goes a long way because boom, you just showed how assertive you were. Even let's say months later, if I got an email from someone saying, hey, remember me from January, let's say, and this was like in September, I've been like, okay, that shows they are dedicated. Like that shows that they're willing to put in the work because they are comfortable enough of reaching out to me. And again, if I'm the mentor that I aspire to be or want to be, of course I'm going to give it. And the very least too, if I don't have it, I'd be like, hey, I don't have anything right now, but let me actually direct you to someone else. And that then stems from the whole fact that we also get connections from mentors.
Or a case, doesn't have to be
Or,
research,
yeah.
a good case. Yeah.
So many cases.
Thank you guys.
I see a question here in the text box. Let's see here. Thank you so much for the students who have families or young children. Sometimes you can't stay late and come early. How else can you demonstrate commitment that's memorable?
A smile and hard work, even from a 9-to-5 job, goes a long way. You don't have to be the one that shows up at 7 o'clock. Okay, it's just because I had neuroses out my yaya. But if you're already gifted and bright and you're at where you're at, within that time frame, giving your 100% while you're there, the quality that you deliver, the quality that you represent, be the one willing to read, be the one willing to coach up someone else, another student or another resident who might need assistance. Positive attitude. Your attitude is everything. And even on those days when you're tired and you feel like hell, you want to show up with a smile, because who wants to work around a crab? Let's be honest here. We're all taking care of very sick people, and you're next to a physician who's going, oh, my back hurts and I'm so tired and I did don't be that person, even though you feel it. And believe me, there have been 20 times I felt it, but I don't say it. I don't say it, because when you're a leader, that kind of thing, and you are a leader as a physician, that kind of thing will make people scatter away from you.
So could I take a little liberty and build off of this question a little bit with the panelists? One of the things that all of you've talked about this evening quite a bit is the concept of a clinical mentor, for lack of a better way of looking at it. And Dr. Ross, you started to touch base on another area also, which isn't necessarily purely clinical, but it's guidance that you get, whether it be how you carry yourself during the day. And this question itself, outside of the hospital or outside of the training, outside of school, mentorship and finding that balance in life. We hear a lot about, living a healthier life for yourself so that you can be there for your patients. How does that fit into the mentorship concept?
Well, I think that family comes first. And I think that we as mentors, when we don't exhibit that very well, we're not being very good mentors. Yes, I'm in the ICU late, but I have other times, I hope, that I have treated my family because if the number one mentor I'm to is to my family, is to my children and now to grandchildren. So I think that's a critical piece of all of this that we all have to understand.
All right, I see a hand raised from Emily Ranta. Emily?
Yeah, so one of the things I've realized, like having had some great mentors, is that, one of the best mentors I had was someone who was actually quite different than I was, who had a different perspective, different background. Can you talk a little bit about like having a variety of mentors, some that, share the same perspective versus some that, have maybe different perspectives, and really the utility and benefit of having both to really further yourself?
Yeah, it's basically, having different mentors with different qualities is just one of those things that help shape you. You have the people that you vibe with completely. They're essentially you, but older or maybe younger, but still you vibe with them quite well. And then there's those other people who they have different perspectives, you know, but at the same time you take some of those pearls that they exhibit, some qualities that they exhibit, and then you use that to shape yourself. To being a mentor is not, of course, being something where you want necessarily for mentees to mimic you, but they are aspiring to you in certain aspects that so they can develop their own identity for the future. So have all the mentors you want, you find people that they might be the pinnacle of whether it's more brash, more straight cutthroat, which is pretty awesome. But at the same time, it's just as awesome for someone who knows how to sit back, take it, and at the same time, still give very insightful things. So I don't know if anyone else to add on to that, but I love I truthfully don't have I think I have like more than like 10 mentors and they're both like attendings and residents, different little aspects of people that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make this a whole for myself.
They want to come home and start fresh here because I have been gone from home since I was 18 years old.
So actually, I'm going to build on a little bit more what you were just talking about, Dr. Arthur. You said you have like 10 different mentors that you work with in different ways. From the perspective, two ways here, one from the mentees and one from the mentors. How do you work to maintain those relationships, feed those relationships and continue those?
So, whatever party they were having, and that's
I, I think that don't expect mentors not to challenge you. I think that's a critical piece of all of this. And no different than, um, my daughter, who I maybe need to challenge once in a while with how she's doing things. I think that I feel the same way toward my residents and students. Um, and challenge is a way for us not only to be accountable to each other, but it's also a way for us to grow. So, mentors who are different oftentimes will challenge us in different ways. Tim, did I answer your question? I just come up with one of my.
No, you're good. And actually, a comment just popped up in the box, and I'd like to maybe put somebody on the spot. Dr. Kaiser-Smith, who is also, I know somebody who has spent quite a deal of time being a mentor and has been on both sides of the equation, noted that sometimes it's okay for a mentorship relationship to be short. Sometimes it's not a good fit. I was wondering if any of the panelists would like to talk about that, or if Dr. Kaiser-Smith, if you'd be interested in sharing a few more thoughts on that.
How about the panel starts, then maybe I can finish. They may say everything that I'm thinking.
Thank you.
I like the analogy is that your life, you're walking down a path, and at different points, you encounter different people, and sometimes they walk with you to the next 4 or 5 places, or taking a train, right? They go with you for the next 4 or 5 stops, and then they get off. That's kind of how the circle of life works, I think. The people who have been the most different for me in retrospect, and even the ones who yell or I didn't view as necessarily kind, have been the ones in my career that have helped up my game a little bit in an area where might be some voids or some deficits. I wasn't happy about it, but it was still a great opportunity for me to grow and become a better person. I think it's really important, especially as trainees, to remember, even though you might be called out or you might be corrected, and even sometimes not even corrected in a manner that's very professional, those are opportunities. And the way that reflects back to you says nothing about you. It says way more about the person who's doing the correcting, right? And being able to read the room. Your skill, I hated this. Okay, I hated the mental health piece when I first started medical school because I didn't understand it. I had anxiety and depression. It wasn't really diagnosed. I didn't know what it was. But going through my training, I would avoid the patients who had those kind of symptoms for some reason or other. And I remember I had an attending who's like, get in there and evaluate this. And it's sort of, I was like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. It's not like I can fix a blood sugar or lower their blood pressure, right? Because you can measure that. All that other stuff is just kind of fluffy. And as an internist, I didn't really want to deal with it. But that was the very thing that I had to deal with to grow. And that is an aha or an opportunity moment, I think. And so you'll experience some of those along the way, your checkpoints, but maybe if you take some heart in my story, that it did make me a better practicing clinician and a better person overall.
Yeah, just before Dr. Kaiser-Smith, if she has anything to add beforehand, regarding for mentors being short term, you got to really just know that, of course, I believe Dr. Good said this earlier, that you can have more than one mentor, of course, but at the same time, you know, it's just this ongoing journey, don't feel like you're limited because now, like, let's say for me, I have 10 mentors. I'm just finding unique aspects for people that I'm aspiring to and that I want to obtain and learn from them. In terms of the next comment that Dr. Kaiser-Smith said, like, you need to talk to the person is what you need. For me, for instance, back when I was an intern, I really wanted to get phenomenal procedures, in the ICU. I had this one person who maybe not the best bedside manner, but man, were they the best at any kind of procedure. And the thing I think to answer a prior question is how do you kind of keep these mentors is, of course, a mentor is putting in work towards you, okay? Which means you need to put in the work back. So for me, when they were teaching me, I made sure that I actually exhibited those qualities. And I was like, okay, well, I asked them to do procedures. Gosh darn it, I should be the one to say forthright that if there's any procedure, let me be the one to do it. So that way they can actually feel like, okay, I gave them my advice. Let me keep on focusing on them. And then next thing you know, that was the end of our relationship. Not in a bad way, but I thankfully they graduated. I got those skills, and then I just moved on.
Dr. LePayne, I see you may have just come off mute. Did you want to make some comments?
No, I'm having a tough time with my phone tonight, but no, I'm just really appreciating this. And can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, no, I echo what's been said, and I'm incredibly I back up the thought of, you have to lead by example, and having the opportunity to work with students has been one of the most incredible assets of my career, the most rewarding gifts of the career. And so I agree with everything that's been said. I think that this is just an opportunity to make yourself vulnerable and make yourself accessible to help, those that have been through, those of us who have been through a tremendous, just been difficult going through some other stages of our life, getting through fellowships, and being able to offer some rewards of our career, and then also, giving advice of some of those milestones of setbacks and hurdles is just tremendous, because, that's what was given to me to, and I want to give that back to students and residents. So I'm grateful to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
Tim, can I just say one, two things?
Please,
I'm sorry.
I was looking for you.
It's okay.
No, thank you.
I'm on my deathbed here right now. I think I have norovirus, but
Oh,
anyway,
no.
so I'm sorry for my background and my muting. Um, the people on this call are in the ACUI because we have chosen to be academic. And your mentors don't have to be the academic people that teach you. It could be the community doctors as well. But when you're a good mentor, and I'm not taking this, to be conceited, everyone wants a piece of you. And so if you have been chosen by 6 or 7 students in 1 week, they want to be you to be their mentor. Sometimes we have to say no, or sometimes we have to say, take a number, circle back with me, because no one at our level wants to do a bad job. We say yes all the time, but sometimes then we don't fulfill what the student needs. So just recognize that, maybe this month is not a good time, but can we circle back, in 6 weeks or so, and reach out to me, and then just make sure the mentor can do what they need you to do. Someone wanted me to mentor them in research. I can't spell research. Okay, so you just kind of have to make sure that the mentor can help you with what your goal is. You may have to do a little bit of research on them to make sure that they can help you with what you want.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaiser-Smith. Any other questions from the audience? I think I see a hand raised. Student Dr. Mirza.
Yes, I had a question about the mentorship program itself. I see the application is in the chat. I apologize if this question has already been answered. So can someone in the panel elaborate more on how does the mentorship program work? Say you're paired up with a mentor. Is there like a set schedule you meet with your mentor? Is it more on like a weekly basis checkup, or is that just between you and your mentor to set up some sort of good boundary that works best for both of you?
All right, so this is a question I believe I could jump in on. Absolutely great question. So when you do click on that form, there should be a list. It tells you could list your interests, you list a little information about you. But when you are matched up with a mentor, it's don't look at it as something like a set schedule or another thing to do. It should never be like that. Obviously, your mentor will be a super busy physician, so you guys will schedule a time. And it could be as this laid back as this like a quick phone call, FaceTime if they're available, text, anything like that. And I have the absolute privilege of having Dr. LePayne as my mentor. She came as a guest speaker once, and like I said earlier, like inspiration, I think, is an important trait, and she absolutely inspired me. Everything she was saying, everything she was doing, and I just like also like Dr. Arthur said, I just put myself out there. I was vulnerable and I asked. But just to go back to your question, no, it's there's not a monthly schedule, there's not a weekly schedule. It's not like I have to, I have to talk to him or her at this time or this point. It's very laid back, and it's like they've all been saying, they're excited to give back, and they especially Dr. LePain has been able to answer every question I've had, and we just schedule a time. It's nothing too formal, which is I think just a nice added bonus to this program.
And if I could just add a tiny bit, just from the staff perspective of this, so you know what to expect. One of the things that we'll do is if you were to complete the application here as a staff, we'll go through, we have individuals that have identified themselves interested in serving as mentors, and then we'll try to create that connection between you and the mentor, or if you're a mentee. And we work it both ways. You see the application for both there. So if you're not already interested in being a mentor and you're on the call, looking across the participation here, there are a number of people on here that do serve as formal mentors. And again, we can go both ways with that. I also see a question from student Dr. Schroeder, I believe it is.
Yeah, hi. Thanks again for all your guys' advice. I'm not sure if this question is really appropriate for this seminar, but I've just been wondering as we're getting ready for, as I'm getting ready to go into rotations, but being part of this talk and hearing you guys talk about how happy you are to help mentor incoming students like me, it makes me feel grateful and happy. Do you have advice for the doctors that may not be that kind and welcoming as we start rotations, and who are a little harder maybe, and how to navigate that and deal with that?
I used to play a game and try to get him to like me. It was my own psyche. I'd be like, hey, I'll tell you a couple jokes. Like, why did the kid eat the bananas? Because he liked them a bunch, stuff like that. Okay. So sometimes you hit upon it. I had a mentor when I was a resident, and nobody liked him. And everybody, he was the gastroenterology fellow, and everybody ran from the room when he came in because he was so grumpy, he was so crabby. One day I just sat down at the table. I'm not saying you should do this. I sat down and I said, Dr. So-and-so, why are you such a crab? You know, and he like opened up to me, told me a story about his life, told me about we are best friends to this day. It's insane how that opened up when I was a medical student. But I think you kill them with kindness. I think you always be kind. You hold yourself to a high standard. You don't let your standards ever deviate in terms of how you treat other people, because let's be honest here. We're taking care of people, okay? And as a physician, you have to reflect that not only to your patients, but to each other and to colleagues and to students as well. And everybody has an off day. And if it's an off-putting thing and all the time it happens, that kind of thing will get you sued, right? Even more so than a bad medical error. So if you have a crabby side to you or whatever, it's important to try to address it and to seriously to try to work on it, because knock on wood, in all 35 years I've been practicing medicine, I never had a lawsuit. And I think it's part of it is because of my communication and that I'm kind to everyone.
And I'll piggyback off that. So if you have a preceptor that's not as warm and as loving as you want them to be, just remember it's temporary. And that one really valuable lesson I've learned through my career in medicine is that you can't please everybody. You're going to run up against people that don't like you for your personality. They're envious because you may, appear smarter. They don't like that you're a DO. I mean, they don't like your pants. They're green this day. So just, that's a hard lesson to learn, but recognize that you're not going to please everybody. And there may be preceptors that you work with that, you in your perception, they may value others better than you. And that's okay. You're going to run up against those. But I found those preceptors, those experiences to be really good in my career. And I'll tell you that they'll make you stronger because you recognize that if you can't please everybody. It's okay, because the ones that you can please and the ones that you can make an impression upon are even that much more meaningful. So don't let those people who doubt you or ever say, maybe you're not really good for ortho surgery, or maybe you're not good enough for cardiology. It's okay. Just recognize that they're a moment in your life and they'll pass. But don't let them ever obstruct you from your goal. If you're looking to go into a role that's really competitive, don't let those people obstruct your way, and don't let those people get in your head. That's my advice.
Yeah, to build off that real quick, you're there not to please, you're there to grow yourself. So you might have that desire, of course, to get them to like you, but all in all, you're working hard, you're being headstrong for yourself at the very, very end of the day. And I'm not gonna lie, for the people, there have been some times, back when I was in medical school, I had one attending that I feel like just did not like me from beginning to end, and that was okay, because if anything, I learned from it. I went through adversity, I grew from it, and secondly, I just learned qualities that I don't really want to exhibit as when I was a full-blown attending, and I gained from it. So then you just keep on moving on, and then I had again those phenomenal interactions that Dr. Lepane just mentioned, and it made it even more meaningful.
Yeah, I think that's why we call it professional development. We're constantly developing. And when that day stops, then we're in trouble. Even an old critter like me, you want to keep developing and improving. There's a difference between teaching and a teacher and a mentor. And I think it's really important, as I was listening, to have a DO, osteopathic internist, somebody can go to, which is what the ACOI is really all about. That's why we're here, is we get together to help support each other and help support the future generation, which is you all. So I think that's critically important. And thank you, Fabio, for redeveloping it.
Thank you so much. Do we have any final thoughts from our panelists? Okay. Well, I just want to first of all say thank you to all of you for joining this evening. Actually being able to sit back and watch this kind of as an overview. I see mentorship happening right here on the call this evening. And I see our panelists helping educate, and I see learning taking place. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Again, the information, the links were put in the box here. Please feel free to reach out to us for any questions, any information. We want ACOI to be a home for you going forward as you go through your education. And please feel free to reach out, and I'll just say thank you again to everyone. I hope you have a great evening. Stay warm, and we hope to see you all soon during our next call. Have a great evening, everyone.